Alright. Hello and welcome to the first real episode in Mass Reflect, our replay of the Mass Effect trilogy, where we ask ourselves, what does it mean? I'm your co-host, Rob.
And I'm your co-host, Betrys.
Alright. And we're
B.
Mass Reflect. Yeah, or B.
We're
I just
Mass
call it,
Reflect. Yeah.
We're Mass Reflect, yeah. We used to have a podcast where it made sense to say that, but you know what? Here we are.
Yeah.
So
we are Mass Reflect. We are mass reflecting us, the audience, on the video game Mass Effect. See, it's a fun joke.
So,
you should explain the title in the first episode, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a title that explains itself.
Yeah, I know.
Us being the professional people we are, we forgot to mention at the end of our episode 0 what section of the game we're playing for the first episode, because we're very good at this. We played, basically I played up until you go to the Citadel, basically just like I saved right before I went to talk to Joker, which would link me into the Citadel section of the game, so I played up through the Eden Prime section.
I played the exact same segment of the game, and stopped at the same point. Although I technically suspended my PlayStation as we were going to the Citadel.
Yeah. Fair.
And then I needed to reload it so I could look at codex entries.
So yeah, that's the section we played. So we'll just kind of go through it, and we'll sort of talk as things come up, I suppose. So the game starts. You play. Well, first let's get into character creation. How was character creation for you? Because I can tell you how it was for me. Bad.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
I'm not crazy about how my character's face looks at all.
I actually don't mind how my character looked. I went with one of the presets and just tweaked some things because I don't have time for character creation anymore, guys.
Fair. I took my time to try to make a character who I could enjoy seeing play through and feel a connection to. I have a purple mohawk. It's awesome. That's the best thing about my character.
I like my character. I think she turned out well. I'm ambivalent about the process of making a character and like a game engine that cannot render human faces with good detail.
No, that's true. The faces do not look good. People complain about that with Mass Effect Andromeda. Maybe they should have looked to the original trilogy as
Yeah, I will say that like non-organic surfaces and the Turians look great in this remaster.
Yeah. Totally. They look amazing.
Yeah.
The other thing that stood out, you don't only select your character's appearance, but also their class and their background.
Yeah.
So what class and let's start well, we already said I went with male shepherd and you went with female shepherd. We thought we'd give the two perspectives on this. We talked about this off air, so worth just mentioning. I was gonna name my shepherd, so characters always named shepherd, but you choose their first name, which then never comes up. I wanted to name mine Rapscallion. Unfortunately, that is too many characters than is allowed, so I shortened it to Rap. I'm Rap Shepherd.
Hell yeah. I named my shepherd Joanna. The reason my favorite author's name is Joanna, so
Fair.
there we go.
What backgrounds did you go for?
I went for, I believe, colonist, and then war hero.
Oh my god.
Oh, did you also go for colonist and war hero?
Yes. You know what's crazy about the backgrounds, though, is that no matter which one you pick, they all... I think the reason I picked colonist was in the past I'd played the other two ways, so I was like, I don't think I played as a colonist, so let me see what that's like. And it's crazy to me that no matter what you pick, it is basically to ensure that Shepard does not have a life outside of the military.
Yeah.
Like, literally, Shepard doesn't have a family.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
The only background that has family is if you pick the military background, and then your family, like, then your mother is like an admiral or something, and that comes up. But like, no, like, it's weird, right? Like, Shepard doesn't have a house anywhere, you know.
I mean, I can sort of, yeah. All right.
And I just think it's worth noting because of what we are going to.
Oh yeah, no, sorry.
Sort of get into with the story. I've
Yeah, I would actually like to read 2 quotes from a thing that I was thinking of a lot while reading the stuff about humans in Mass Effect, especially in the Codex entries.
Sure.
These are from a book. First one. Violence. Naked force has settled more issues in history than has any other factor. And to permit irresponsible authority is to sell disaster.
Those sound like they'd be Ayn Rand quotes.
They are similar. They are very similar.
What would you care to share what that is from?
I would at the end of this episode. Mostly because I wanted to have more discussion about the world of Mass Effect.
Alright, fair enough.
I don't want that to, like, loom... I want it to loom over, but I don't want it to actually be directly referenced until we talk about it without this other thing.
Right. So, you create your character. The second layer of backgrounds are also wild. It is either Ruthless, War Hero, or Soul Survivor are the 3 options. And I feel like War Hero is the only one that is, like, kind of not, like, uncomfortable.
War Hero is... I mean, it kind of goes beyond the only heroic one. It's, like, the only one where you are not a ruthless sociopath.
Yes. Or, like, horrible scar... Like, at least, like, you know, Soul Survivor is, like, horrible scarring. And Ruthless is you are basically a psychopath. And then it's like, or you are just the best, you know? And it's like this weird, even though it's 3 options, it's this weird binary of... Or I guess not, right? Because I guess Soul Survivor, the idea being you can take away from that what you will. But you're not going to go from Ruthless to a Paragon path through the game.
No. That doesn't make sense, at least. Although you could also pick Ruthless and then be a Paragon.
Which would be interesting. What would that say?
Look, we'll get into it when we actually play more of this game. But
Fair.
I'm sort of worried. Not a lot, actually.
Nah, probably not.
Yeah, you remember that one time when you weren't able to be nice? Ugh. It's too bad that's the only thing you remembered for.
So I think we discussed this a little bit off air. But we definitely didn't on air. What class did you decide to pick?
I am playing Vanguard.
I'm also playing Vanguard.
But
But you stole that. I said Vanguard first.
I mean, yeah, but I wanted to play Vanguard because it's the most fun to do in 3.
It is the most fun to do in 3. I never played Vanguard until I played the multiplayer for 3, and then made a character who was unbeatable with the Vanguard and multiplayer. And so I was like, now that I'm replaying the games, I want to play as a Vanguard.
Yeah, I will say, in Mass Effect 1, Vanguard is underwhelming. So far, at least.
After we're done creating... there's not... I mean, I feel like the thing is in Mass Effect 1 is just there's not a lot of actual character options. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what weapons are you proficient in, which you kind of do on a weird straight line path. You know, is getting a little ahead of ourselves, but like... And then you have, like, kind of a lesser pool of powers.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that changes as you play through it, you know?
I hope so. In Mass Effect 1, you have... Honestly, basically just basic force powers. Push, pull, shield. That weird thing where they float.
Yeah. I feel like I remember the powers being more interesting in the later games.
They definitely differentiated them more between like the different classes that had powers. Like Vanguard, it sort of feels like just a compromise if you don't want to play a full caster. I forget what the casters' names are. I'm sorry.
I think there's Adept is one.
Adept, that's it.
I think there's one other as well. There's a couple of... Because they have basically like these... There are like the 3 tiers of Mass Effect, and this is more important in Mass Effect 1, and I think gets changed in the later Mass Effect. Like the 3 tiers are supposed to be like, there's technology, there's weapons proficiency, and then there is biotic powers. And like each class is kind of like a mixture of those, is either like fully on in one of those tower in one of those sections, or it's a mixture of them somehow. And Vanguard is kind of the biotic mixed with combat, which I think is what makes it appealing and fun, because you kind of get to mix and match that stuff a little bit more.
A little bit more. I would say that's a lot more noticeable even in Mass Effect 2 than Mass Effect 1.
Yes, because the powers that you get are... You get actually distinct biotic powers in Mass Effect 2 and 3.
And in 2, you get distinct guns based off your class.
Yes.
Yeah. Totally.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, so yeah, that brings us out of character customization, and into the game, which starts with you on an apparent shakedown run of this new vessel, the Normandy. You're the second in command aboard, behind Captain Anderson. You are traveling with a Spectre. Not much is really said about Spectres until you start to dive into some of the later stuff, but essentially they are military special forces who operate independently with full support of the Council and complete autonomy, and are like permitted to go beyond the law, essentially. And they are, as we learned from the Codex entry, this might be a good time, I know you wanted to discuss that entry specifically.
Yes.
They are described as having been sort of formed by the Taurians and the Solarians, a race that we actually haven't met in game.
Yes. They were founded after the Solarians joined the Council, and for many years they operated in secrecy as backroom problem solvers. Only after the Krogan rebellions did their activities become publicized.
So that last detail is what I wrote down into my notes when I was going through the Codex, because it is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we do then remember the council elections after the... What do Asaris do? Meditate? The meditation committee? I don't know. I'm trying to make a church committee joke. Point is, the Spectres of the CIA, and it's very funny.
But it's, like, even crazier. Like, I want to get into the fact that, like... What was it about the Krogan rebellion? Because we haven't actually met the Krogan, and there's no information on the Krogan. This entry is our first reference to the Solarians and to the Krogan.
It sure is. It's also described as a rebellion, which is fun.
So you are Shepard. You are part of the Alliance military. The Alliance is like the human national government. As we sort of see, you find out that this just isn't just an ordinary run for the ship. You're going to Eden Prime, one of the human sort of shining beacon colonies, to pick up a Prothean artifact. Prothean are this race that came before, which is basically they are who people believe to have created the Mass Effect relays, that they essentially created all the technology that allows us to travel between the stars. Everything is Protean, is believed to be Protean created, including the Citadel, which we're going to get to, and as well as the Mass Effect relays, which allow for faster than light travel. Like, societies would not be able to have this civilization without that technology. At least at this point in their development. And so there's an artifact, you're going there, and the reason why Nihilus, a Spectre, is coming with you is because humanity wants to have a Spectre because it would make them more important politically, which is interesting when you think about it, and it would give them a larger say in the affairs of government.
I mean, it's a tacit... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, Shepard is the candidate for that.
Yeah. And of course, the fact that the Spectres have influence on the Council is a tacit admission of a deep state within the massive universe. A bold and forward-thinking move by BioWare.
Yes. It is also one of the things that we should probably talk about at this point is how the national government, how the alliance ends up being formed as described in the Codex entries.
Yeah, this is another fun thing. Hi, this is a podcast where we read from video games lore book.
Yeah.
You're listening to it, so have fun.
I hope you're enjoying it. But also, I mean, look, this is how we have to. There are things I want to discuss here. We have to establish these things. You know.
I actually think it's interesting the way that the Spectres are described by characters independent of the Codex, because they are like briefly described by the ship's doctor and like this plucky young recruit who's just entered the Alliance. He's not a recruit; he's like a corporal, but that's the vibe.
Yeah, I didn't sit down for every conversation with them. So I just was like, I don't want to hear another description about the Spectres. What stood out to you about how they were described?
They're basically described like how I remember them being described as like, oh, they're space cops, and the sort of controversial or whatever elements aren't really dealt with. The political influence is also kind of hand-waved away. It was a weird conversation compared with the implications of a Codex entry.
So, we've compared them real world to the CIA. What do you think they're like? What do you think that they are in the sort of canon of science fiction?
In the canon of science fiction, the thing that occurs to me is the Lensman or Landsman, what the heck that dumb thing is. But that's very pulpy sci-fi.
For me, they remind me of Jedi.
Oh! I was gonna ask what the section in Star Trek is called, but
Section
Jedi.
31.
Yeah,
but Section 31 is different because Section 31 is not officially sanctioned.
Yeah. Yes.
In
sometimes.
Star Trek.
And then sometimes that's ambiguous. And
then sometimes it is when they write a prequel series, I guess.
Yeah, way to ruin that cool ambiguity of Deep Space Nine. This isn't a Deep Space Nine podcast, sorry.
No, that's our other podcast. No, we don't have a Deep Space Nine podcast.
We would not do a Deep Space Nine podcast. No. Not out of disinterest, it's just, I'm
sure there's a million of those. That's not why we're here.
Nope.
No, for me, it's like the idea that they're these, like, part of the council, but also separate from the council, reminds me of how Jedi are positioned in, like, the Star Wars prequel movies. Just these sort of, like, independent operators who have full autonomy over their actions and don't really, don't answer to anybody.
Yeah, that adds up to me, too. I just... I'm reading... Look, I know what they actually do. And the fact that they come up during the Krogan rebellions is,
Yeah.
Look, I'm excited to read way too much into the Spectres, okay?
It's fair. Well, I think, the reason I bring it up is I feel like there is a larger discussion that we are going to have as we go through this, knowing what we know about the history that we haven't seen yet. It's why I want to bring all this up, and why I also haven't dived too deep on everything,
Yeah. I will say, they are presented ambiently as something like Jedi, as like more down to earth Jedi. Yeah, they don't have magical powers because that's actually pretty standard. Lots of people have them.
Yeah, it turns out they do. The thing is that they do, right? Because they're usually people who are just really good at biotics.
Absolutely. That does seem to be the ones that you mean, at least, or like really good soldiers.
Yeah. Which just ends up
Nihilus is just the best soldier.
Yeah, like we don't see him do any biotic stuff, but he's basically like, I'm gonna go off. He just loads a shotgun. Is like, I'm gonna go off on my own.
Yeah, Caden at one point is like, man, he was armed like a whole platoon. I'm glad he's on our side. I was like, he had one shotgun.
He had one gun. Yeah.
He gets taken out by a shot to the back.
So as you're, so I do want to discuss before we get back into the story. So one of the details is Nihilus is a Turian. We've talked about them. They're a race who believe in discipline and military service.
Their government is called the Hierarchy.
And it's led by military people.
Yeah.
We have in the Alliance is formed shortly after humanity discovers the Prothean technology, but it's described as actually not being that influential, important. Local governments still reign until the First Contact War happens. The First Contact War is a war between the humans and Turians that starts from a misunderstanding and them basically starting to fight each other. And humanity, because the local governments, as described in the book, in the Codex, they cannot, they're too busy, in their words, dithering. So instead, the Alliance the Alliance controls the space military, so they're able to respond, and because of their quick action, the Alliance then takes over the Earth. All the local governments are now subservient to the Alliance after the First Contact War.
Yep. Rendered void by the Alliance after the First Contact War.
It is a very I think we can just say this at this point, the Alliance is a military government,
Yeah. No, it's just yeah. Yeah, it is a government that does seem military.
They basically take over the Earth because they're the only people with enough military control. And they sort of use
after a war whereby a bunch of democratic seeming states must have failed.
Yes. Yeah. That wasn't 100 years ago. It was 10 years before the events of this game. It is a very short time.
Wait, I need to look that up.
Yeah, if you look at the timeline I think it's 10 to 20 years before this game.
Okay, yeah.
Because, remember, Anderson served in the First Contact War.
Yeah, that's what I thought was more on a 20-year scale. Because also, yeah. Okay.
But Shepard was alive during the First Contact War, I believe, if the timeline's correct. Also, did you note in the timeline in the Codex how old Shepard is?
No. How old is Shepard?
29. Which is crazy. My Shepard does not look like a 29-year-old.
No!
And I say that as a 29-year-old.
Yeah, as a 28-year-old, my Shepard doesn't look like a 29-year-old.
Yeah. It's good. It's very good.
It's perfect.
I never noticed that detail either, so that's funny.
Yeah, this is fun.
Whew. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to establish the facts around what the factions that we are interacting with in this first segment are. And so, one of the things that's established is Eden Prime is very important to humans, not just because it's a shining beacon of humanity, but it also represents, as described by nihilists, their ability to maintain colonies and their ability to basically maintain a space empire, which represents their ability to perform within the larger space empire government, which is an oligarchy ruled by a council.
Yeah, another elected council that seems to rule in lifetime appointments.
Yes. Based on what we see later in the game.
Yep.
So, I mean, we've kind of talked around it, but yes, the Torians are coded as this fascist organization, and so is humanity, basically, at this point.
Yeah, this is a great moment to reveal where those quotes are from. They are from Starship Troopers, the novel by Heinlein.
Wow. I should have guessed.
Yeah, right?
Damn it.
It was the only sci-fi work I was actually thinking about while I was reading about humanity in this. It was oh, cool.
So this is
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say no. Please, you first.
I was also thinking of Babylon 5, but that's I believe there were at least some writers on Mass Effect who were explicitly influenced by Babylon 5, and that is different, and distinct.
The thing that is interesting about this to me is what spawned this conversation was us off air having conversations about how man, isn't it weird how fascist some of the stuff is now seems, that I never picked up on, and maybe it's because I didn't dive as deep into the codex as I thought I had, or maybe because I played this game when I was 14 or 15 and just wasn't because none of this is ever being explicitly stated. This is all, and none of it is being stated in the dialogue of the game. This is all in the lore, in the codex of this game. Is the fact that humanity seemingly has fallen under this this government that took control during a war, and is everyone sees Eden Prime and this colonization as a good thing. It is only in reading between the lines on it, are we seeing the fact that they are now part of this larger fascist organization that they're trying to curry more power in. We haven't gone into this in the game yet, but we know from having played before that there are other species than just the humans, the Taurians, the Solarians, and the Asari, and none of them have representatives on the council, although they are all bound to the council's law and under the council's domain.
Yeah. I actually just looked up the Turians, and they're more fascist than I thought.
I think we're going to especially see that as we sort of continue with the series. So I don't want to dive too much outside of that.
I didn't want to either. I just wanted to look one thing up. I'm sorry, and I got caught up.
No, it's fair. But yeah, so as you're sort of having this discussion about the Protheon beacon and how important that is, you get a message from an emergency message from Eden Prime, where it is basically being attacked. You then show up at Eden Prime, and you find out that almost everyone in the colony has been killed by the Geth. The Geth are these synthetic robots, kind of these cool-looking organic robot sort of thing going on. But I don't think there's any organic part to them. Just the fact that they move very organically. It looks really cool. I forgot how cool the Geth were, design-wise.
It's one of the many things that was disappointing about Mass Effect 2 initially for me is I thought the Collectors weren't as cool as the Geth.
No, yeah, it's true. Do we want to? No. Should we dive into the Geth's history, which is learned from a codex entry?
Yeah, let's do that.
This one, I texted you this morning while I was reading through this, like, oh my god, there is...
Yeah.
Oof, you know? In the first episode, we talked about, like, is Mass Effect 3 refocusing, bringing to the forefront these issues of synthetic life, something we should have picked up on more as we played through the first two games. And, like, I think they definitely could, like, there's a lot in the backstory and the codex entries that I just did not realize. And I think they explicitly show this at a later part in Mass Effect 3. But basically the gist is the Geth were created by this other race who we haven't met yet, the Quarians. The Quarians. Sorry.
Now they got a weird name.
And it's weird that it's, like, so similar to the Torians as well.
Yep. And they have similar biology. No, it's all weird.
The Quarians made the Geths basically as slaves to do labor and fight for them, to be warriors for them. What I always imagined was like, oh, but the Geth rose up against the Quarians, you know, with violent rebellion. No, that's not what happened according to this codex entry. According to this codex entry, the Geth started to self-evolve.
Yeah.
Which it does not describe what that means, but we can assume became self-aware. And so the Quarians decide to basically genocide the Geth. And the Geth fight back against annihilation and in order to protect themselves, basically. And they win the war and exile the Quarians from their home world.
Yeah.
And then after that, the council, again, this government we really want to be a part of, banned artificial intelligence in order to prevent this from happening again.
Well, Rob, you say that like that's not what you would do.
But again, what they are trying to prevent is like them becoming self-aware. Like it's not like the Geth it's not like the Geth are inherently warlike based on this codex description.
No. What I read in that codex description is they're inherently warlike and they're trying to destroy the Quarian way of life.
It is shocking. It is shocking because we're going to meet some Quarians
by existing.
Yes, and like
we're gonna meet Quarians, and they're gonna also be sympathetic, and this is gonna be a fun, presented as sympathetic at least.
I mean, the thing is, like, the Geth are presented as the bad guys in this entire game.
Yeah, it don't really even become kind of okay people until game 2?
3. Yeah, they kind of become. You start to realize that not all of the Geth are bad though in 2.
Yeah,
but we're gonna get to that when we get to 2. We were worried if this would have enough meat on the bones, but I think there's gonna be a lot to discuss about Mass Effect.
No, it's yeah.
So we get down to Eden Prime. The Geth are killing colonists. There's a giant, crazy, squid-shaped spaceship in the air. We sort of continue as we find survivors. One of our squad mates, Jenkins, the corporal who's very boyish and from Eden Prime, gets murdered within the first 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, he's from there. He gets murked. Really sad. There
are some creatures that are just referred to as gas bags, which are the indigenous species of Eden Prime. Don't worry about it. If you want, you can just use them for target practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, don't worry about them.
Don't worry about them.
You can just
use
kill
them. For target practice.
Yeah, if you accidentally, they're just gonna float around. So if you're fighting the Geth and you shoot one while fighting the Geth, it's okay because you're trying to protect human lives here. You know, let's not worry about it.
I do love because what it's actually saying is, if you want to do some target practice in this game with shooting mechanics, you can do that in this tutorial mission essentially.
Yeah.
But what it communicates about the world is, oh yeah, no, we don't give a shit about life.
Yeah, no, we never it's never established
it's the best.
Eden Prime was a life supporting planet. So what happened to the life that was on it before you showed up? And it's never answered.
No, I mean, it's never even explored or thought about.
No.
Which, I mean, to be, I guess, fair, was pretty common for sci-fi at the time.
No, it's true.
That's the attitude of Star Trek, essentially, most of the time. Is
Science fiction, yeah, no, totally. It's the problem in a lot of ways. With a lot of science fiction, the idea but what if there was a new frontier, A
frontier that doesn't have any sentient species. You know what? Mass Effect actually boldly takes that stance and says, we'd probably commit genocide, huh? Yeah.
I mean, that's what
I guess
have to
most sentient races would have to.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're gonna get into it.
We will. I mean, we kind of already are with this Quarian thing.
That's true.
The Quarians rebelled against their creators who were trying to commit a genocide, and the galactic civilization were like, okay, Quarians, you guys really fucked up. You're just gonna live on spaceships, and we're basically gonna condemn you to a slow death because of it. And Geth, we're just gonna cut off all contact with you, and
we're gonna make
hopefully
we're gonna make it legal to kill you.
Yeah, we're going to make you unpeople, and we're going to not recognize you or let you join our galactic community because you are synthetic life, which organic life is inherently scared of.
Yeah,
I guess.
But that's the thing is that was what Mass Effect 3 ends up being, and at the time Mass Effect 3 came out, I was like, what? Why is this about this? Now playing this game, I can't help but be like. I don't know. Again, this isn't being stated in the main text, but it is being stated in a lot of the supplemental material, and different writers ended up taking over in the later games. So there's clearly an interest in exploring this idea with Mass Effect as a series. There are questions of the series about who gets to be a person in Mass Effect.
Yeah, but I guess the thing to me that I find problematic. Sorry. I just had a thought, but never mind. I realized it was maybe a broader thing.
Well, what's interesting to me about this is, and one of the things I kind of wonder about this is, what does that mean for humanity who is trying to survive in this new civilization? Do they want to be part of the council just so that they can reap the same benefits that the three main council species, who are called the council species, they are considered a separate species, separate tier of species from the others, and
all the animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others,
and it's exactly, and it's
Sorry.
Are we afraid of is it just that we want to take over, or are we actually look, we got to get on the council, or else what happened to the Quarians could just happen to us? Not necessarily the making robots part, but the fact that when things go bad for us, we be on our own, we be without any support. I mean, how much of it is our own desire to rule, and how much of it is our desire, just basic survival instincts? If you're not on the top of this pile, you have a chance of falling in between the cracks.
I don't know. I view it very much as humanity wants to get it, not for any kind of nominally charitable reason for ourselves, or not even charitable, but self-interested on a species level. This does just feel like, no, humanity's kind of fashy. They're mostly in line with the council stuff. If we hadn't come into this whole first contact kerfuffle with the Turians, we'd probably be besties. Just make us a council race already. Come on. Come on.
That's fair. I thought it was worth at least you know.
It is. I apologize. I don't mean to be dismissive of it. It's just I can't not read it that way because that's how humanity's presented. They're not like we hate and fear the council races. Like, no, we want to be part of this galactic community, and the way we're gonna do that is by becoming a Spectre. Look. Why aren't you more excited for this? As you'll eventually find out. Nope, can't reveal that either.
So, after you land, Nihilus ends up meeting up with another Turian Spectre named Saren. At first, Nihilus assumes that Saren is there to help, but then Saren murders Nihilus. You meet a new squad mate, whose name I now can't forget. Oh no! Can't remember. I mean, what is... Oh, we didn't establish there's also squad mate Kaden Olenko, who's a biotic.
Yeah.
And Ashley Williams, joins your squad. She's a soldier.
Ashley is one of the, soldiers on Eden Prime who were sent to secure this beacon initially, and her, squad is wiped out.
Yeah.
So she joins you, because Jenkins just died, and damn it, you need another body.
Oh no. Yeah, pretty much. She replaces Jenkins.
Look, Shepard realized, oh no, the more red shirts die, the more I might die. I need another person here. Caden's looking real expendable.
Yeah. Really, that's all that matters, is finding more bodies to throw at this war machine.
That is all that matters.
You fight against the Geth. The Geth are taking colonists and turning them into cyber zombies, so that's not nice. Again, in the text of the Codex entries, it's a lot more ambiguous. In the text of this game and what happens, they are just coded as purely monstrous. We go... at that point, to be honest, I don't have as many notes about this section. We find Nihilus dead. A colonist who survived points us in the direction of the Protheon beacon. We go and find it. Shepard then interacts with it and has a vision of machines destroying humanity. And then passes out, wakes back up on the ship. Everyone's leaving. The beacon was destroyed during this incident. So Shepard now remains the only person who is a witness to what the beacon was trying to say. And that's basically where it leads off. I didn't mean to wrap it up too quickly. I just don't... not a lot happened in this part, No,
not as much happened in this part, but enough happened, and I hope we laid some groundwork for this world.
Yeah.
Which is just...
It's a lot... part of the reason we want to do this is we suspected that this world was maybe more messed up than we initially read it back in the day, and I think after the first segment, I'm willing to say, yes, definitely. There is a lot more going on in this world than I ever understood.
Oh, way more. It's kind of embarrassing, honestly.
I feel like an idiot who's never actually played Mass Effect, even though I played these games multiple times,
Well, yeah, except I also don't remember this shit being talked about that much.
No. But that's the thing, is I don't think I read it. I must not have read every Codex entry, and it just doesn't come up if you're not in the Codex entries.
Well, because, presentationally, what's interesting is it's almost... It's almost presented like a propaganda narrative in universe, right? You are the heroic Alliance officer. And the Alliance can't really be questioned. Like, yeah, there are some bad people, but they're the politicians.
The thing is...
This is a thing that is... Oh my god, that's actually a through line throughout.
Oh, no, it is. And it's one of the things we have to discuss when we get to the next segment of the game. You know?
Yeah, it's so fun.
Because we're going to interact with politicians. The thing is, like... You're
I
right.
mean, I don't entirely disagree because I'm an anarchist, but like, yeah, no, it's a weird thing if you don't believe in representative democracy. If you believe in representative democracy to like have the yeah. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say because like every character we've met is somebody who would just believe in this world that's been created. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't make sense if the characters we're interacting with recognize, like, we're to be like, yo, hey, Anderson, have you ever thought about the fact that we're in a fascist government? No. Me neither, because why would we?
Well, yeah, and it's presented in the backstories. Like, the Earthborn one, I was shocked to reread it and be like, roving gangs and, like, crime? What the hell? Why is Earth, like, hellish in this
Earth is hellish in this universe.
Which is really funny, because then in Mass Effect 3, they make a real point about, like, we need to take back Earth.
It's a big deal.
I would say it was a spoiler, but it was literally the marketing campaign.
It never made sense to me that Earth was hellish, but, like, it never even stood out to me. Do you know what I mean? Because it's, like, a detail in this backstory that you could just miss. You could not read that backstory, you know?
Well, look, I won't lie to you. The first time I made a character, I definitely didn't read the backstory because I assumed it was not much more than what was on the tin, you know?
Yeah.
So I picked, I think, like, Spacer because I was like, yeah, I like the idea of being from space.
Yeah, totally. And
didn't think that much more about it. And then I was like, oh, I can talk to my parents. That's weird.
Here's what's crazy. If, like,
my mom, I think.
You would assume that the Earthborn in, like, any other side, if this was, like, another science fiction story that I love, that I don't know, its politics might not be the best either, but in different ways. The Expanse, like...
No, that's pretty good politics.
We'll discuss that on our Expanse podcast series.
Yeah, which I'm never going to do because I'm never going to watch it. I just wanted to say it had good politics.
Fair. I don't know.
It's also fine to like a show that doesn't have good politics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that there are a lot of very interesting ideas for The Expanse. I think more often than not, this is a total aside, but The Expanse is so often like a little bit at war with itself with what it's about. But that would be a great one to talk about if we want to talk about space colonization, because that gets into it a lot, and also into the way that like a fascist government can sort of fall apart to crime. There is a lot of really interesting politics in The Expanse. I don't know if it always comes together in that way, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Mass Effect.
Another thing that. We'll talk about how interesting its politics are.
Well, that's what this journey is about, to find out. But the reason I bring up The Expanse is like Earth is presented like if you're from Earth, you are just a more bourgeois person than if you came from the colonies or the asteroids. In Mass Effect, it's the opposite, right? Like Earth is a hellhole, and humanity's only hope is in the colonies. Like Eden Prime is a paradise. Earth is not a paradise.
Yeah. Eden Prime is also an interesting paradise. It's one that is purposefully kept at like a low level of industrialization with like minimal. I actually don't think any cities.
No, I mean, it seems like it's all farmlands is the way it's described.
Yeah. There's apparently like one big settlement or something.
I'm sure there is.
There's
like you go back to it at a certain point, right?
Yeah, I probably in like Mass Effect 3.
And I think in the Prothean from the Ashes DLC.
Oh my god. DLC. Sorry, it's just part of the game. It's part of the game that they cut out. So insane. Anyways.
It is wild. Anyway, if you enjoyed this...
Anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us. It'd be really great. I know you're probably, as a listener to podcasts, annoyed by the idea of rating, reviewing, and hear about it all the time, but it's because it's a great way, especially for a new podcast starting out, to gain new listeners. We would really appreciate it. If you can also share, I've just set up a URL in between recording last episode, so massreflectpod.com. There you can find links to all of our social media accounts, as well as links to the podcast feeds and a newsletter that will eventually start sending out news emails for eventually. So if you're interested, massreflectpod.com. You can then link to our social media accounts where we'll be posting stuff over hopefully. Segments from episodes, images. I want to post our Commander Shepard pictures to it, so that'll be good.
We'll have Commander Shepard hanging out in bars, Commander Shepard catching dance. I
love photo modes in games, and I'm especially excited to get to do it in a game in a game series where you're not always just in combat. So there's going to be some fun images I'm sure we'll both be taking.
Absolutely.
It's a pretty good photo mode, too. So I'm excited to play around with it.
I haven't played around that much with it, but I love a photo mode.
So please, on your podcast app of choice, rate and review us. Share, please, if you think you know someone who would enjoy listening to this podcast, share it with them. Just anything you can do. If you don't feel like you have to. If there's something, if you enjoyed this enough to want to help out, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Share it with people you like. Share it with people you don't like.
Yeah.
Share it with people who might be irritated by this. I'm cool with hate listens.
I would love
fine.
It. Yes. Please. Yes.
Tell your Mass Effect loving friends and enemies to listen to Mass Reflect and get a real good chuckle out of us.
Tell people who hate Mass Effect. Tell people who love Mass Effect.
Tell anyone.
Tell politicians about us.
Don't tell politicians about us. Don't do that.
I'll cut out that bit. That was just a weird joke.
No. I want you to keep that. Keep it.
Good. That's staying in. All right. And yeah, we again, I think by the time that this goes up, we should have our next episode up. But yeah, join us every Wednesday for more Mass Reflect.